if you love them, you have to fight for it, right?
Yes, but Rebecca's not exactly doing that. Hey Internet, it's Jessica, and welcome back to The Letter. So, Rebecca is just leaving after her awkward dinner date with Luke. That was just really weird, but I did agree a lot with Luke was what he was saying about Ashton and her obsession with him. So, I just wish he wasn't so mean about it, but you know, maybe Rebecca will finally realize she needs to stop with this, like, fantasy so she can actually, like, live her life out, because she's like harboring so much hurt in her with her parents, and then now with Ashton. It's just like she's torturing herself. It's kind of like with Marianne, right? She's torturing herself with the death of Lorraine. It's not good for you. The same wordless silence fills our short walk back to the school, except for when Luke gestures at a nearby flower shop and enters without waiting for Kylie and I. He emerges a minute after carrying a bouquet of daffodils with the same softened expression back on his face. Unlike the previous one, he tucked this one away almost as soon as he looked up at us, a moment he's not willing to share. At my confusion, he merely answers with a shrug and continues walking.
For someone important.
I think it's his mother, right? It's not really Hana. I accept for what it is, if only because he doesn't owe me an explanation. It does leave more questions about him, each one as baffling as the previous one. Those are the last words spoken this evening before we head out our ways. Up until I arrive at home, I still can't understand him. Here, however, a whole different set of questions await me. And much like everything today, it comes with the littlest of things. A lone note greets me upon reaching my unit's door. Its edges flutter lightly against the faint, warm breeze passing through the small complex. My hand stops short of twisting the knob and I stare at it, though I don't make any moves to take it. Ashton's neat script lines on the surface. Dropped by earlier, you weren't around. Any ideas where Skatey Cat is? I couldn't contact her. Inspector Abigail has a few questions. LPD stuff. Something about her dead coworkers. Anyway, let me know how the two of you are doing. I'll see you later, Ash. The message left, short and straight to the point, but not without an underlying hint of friendship. He's looking for Isabella, apparently. Something about the LPD's investigation of her coworker's death, but ends in a formal tone by checking on me. Us. Any other day, the former part of his message will likely prod in the piercing envy I've been holding, while the latter will probably send me my heart aflutter. Little things like that from him I want to mean something more, yet this time only guilt fills me and my eyes briefly shift towards Isabella's empty unit. Luke's words repeat inside my head as I do so.
For what it's worth, Rebecca, I didn't ever think that's all there is to you. Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
Have I always been like this?
This selfish? In truth, I've intended to call Ash after dinner, if I didn't catch him here, invite him to that party like I planned. There's the time and he's still probably awake around this hour, but by my own hands I won't. And perhaps it's for the better, until I had the time to think it through. It'll be best if I distance myself from those I've been clinging to tightly. Find a different perspective and see things for what they are. With a soft sigh, I reach for the note and crumble it under my hand. The knob twists open, and much to ease I enter this time. Maybe after some introspection, it'll be easier. For tomorrow, I have that woman and the mansion to worry about. Friday. This is the housewarming party, I think. I don't know. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of the thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for a proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edges are still there. And as expected, the second I step out of my flat, it comes apart, broken by voices of two squabbling adults echoing from a floor below. The quiet was nice while it lasted. Shame.
What the hell were you thinking?
Oh, it's Ash!
I wasn't. Ow! Could you let go?
Not a few seconds later, they both ascend to the stairs, with Ashton pulling Isabella by her wrist. She struggles, as she should, but his hold on her remains firm. Freeing herself means having drawn blood, as she attempted to pry his hand off of her the other one, or using unnecessary force to push her away herself, neither of which is better than the other. One could potentially end in an accident, while the other means having to hurt him physically. She has a good sense to realize that, at least. However, it doesn't take a desperate edge in her voice when she answers Ashton's temper with her own. So on they go, none the wiser to my presence.
Do you have any idea how much trouble you could get in?
That's why I'm asking you for help.
Is this what you've been doing these past 3 days? Because this doesn't make your case convincing, Isabella.
Rose died, Ash.
I know. Every single person in Luxburg knows. It's on the damn news. But that doesn't mean...
People are missing. Some of those are my friends. And BRC's just covering it all up.
You can't just barge into my office and expect me to do anything about it, right off the bat. This isn't a children's game, Isabella. We have procedures. We have to follow protocol. There's red tape all over this case for a reason. We sure as hell don't investigate things just because some stupid letter spooked us.
Ash, you have to believe me this time. If we don't do anything right now, more people will...
It's been a whole week. This stupid letter prank is getting old real fast. I'm sick of it. It was funny the first time, not so much now.
You're the only one that can help me with this, Ash. Even Rebecca won't.
All right, you two are awfully loud. What's going on here?
Both of their heads snap up, almost in unison, a displeased frown is in each of their faces. But this is a necessary interruption. What can they do? People are still in their units have already taken interest in the commotion, with some taking a peek behind their curtain, while others are bold enough to creak the doors open, if only slightly. If they don't keep it down, pretty soon our landlady will show up. Getting a reprimand from her is the last thing I want to happen. First thing on a Friday morning, even if it's hardly my fault.
Well, if you want to continue this, you two better do it elsewhere. You're disturbing other people.
Don't worry, we're done here.
No, we aren't. Becca, I looked it up. I called them. I visited some of them, and...
Which you shouldn't have done in the first place. Isabella, you're going to create more problems for us with what you're doing. A team has already been assigned to it. Leave it to us.
Your precious team is looking at it the wrong way. Becca, it's not just Rose. There are others.
The last bit strikes a chord, prods strongly at a memory. At that vicious smile already etched deeply in my mind, the image appears clear enough that at a mere mention of this, I stumble in my own question.
What do you mean?
The letter, Rebecca! It's not...
It's nothing. If there's really something going on because of that dumb letter, none of us would be standing here. We've all read it, haven't we? But Rebecca's alive, Zach's alive, I'm alive. So for the last time, this isn't a curse. There's a murderer on the loose, and your co-workers happen to be the victims. Give it a rest, Isabella. It's too early for this shit.
Don't you think that's too much for a coincidence?
I agree. Like, there has to be a reason why it's all connected. Maybe it's not exactly the ghost girl killing people, but maybe she's warning them about another evil. I don't know what's happening, but they're intertwined for a reason.
Not so much. Most serial killers follow a pattern. I'll tell you about it some other time. And anyway, coincidence or not, the point is, civilians like you aren't supposed to get involved. You're putting yourself in danger.
I can agree with that. I wasn't chasing after...
Both of you, slow down and stop arguing for a minute. What's this about your coworkers, Belle?
Becca, please don't tell me now you believe this shit.
Sure, in a heartbeat, I'll agree with Ashton. That's how it's always been. Besides having a very good point. Really, they've been really the same one he'll make every time I ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is, what he wants to hear from me right now is far from what I've been seeing, sensing these past few days. It doesn't matter what Isabella or I believe on our own. Something odd has been happening around me, and the letter she picked up is at the heart of this. But however I respond to the question in their faces, only one of them will be pleased with it, of course. Belle, you shouldn't be doing these things. I might have seen her. Okay, it's not like I don't want her relationship to be bad with Ashton. I do want them to figure it out, so I'm gonna agree with it, Isabella, just to say, like, there's something going on, so Ashton will wake the hell up. Ashton in particular won't be too happy to hear it. Imagine the look on his face doesn't take too much effort. His entire posture shifts at the moment my reluctance shows, shoulders tensing, brows furrowing, eyes gaining a sharp edge. He's already bracing himself from disappointment, and it will be a disappointment. Not in a million years did I ever believe I'll be saying this either.
I might have seen her. The woman Belle's been telling us about.
Mm-hmm.
The one she said she saw in the attic.
Both of them stare at me like I've grown an extra head, and for a few moments, Ashton looks like he's about to have a fit. A pause trends at its heels after, a silence thick enough, one can almost hear a pin drop.
You're kidding, right?
Do I look like I'm joking?
Really, Becca? Not funny.
Ash, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about this? It's been this way since the film fest. The past few days have been really odd since we read that letter.
Or maybe you're all just feeling under the weather.
I'm not sick. Don't you think I'd know that by now?
Becca, you're starting to sound like Scaredy Cat. Give me a break.
Why don't you?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you two.
Isabella's voice cuts sharply through the conversation, abruptly putting the end to the brewing argument.
It's all my fault. This is all my fault. I was only hoping I could fix this before any of you. I'm sorry for dragging you all into this.
She breathes in, deep, steadying, and in that moment, something falls between her eyes and she looks
I'll
away.
fix this. I promise.
A quiet resolve. The same one I saw in her that night from 3 days ago, but this time it burns brighter. Even Ashton wavers at its sight when she looks at him straight in the eye, gaze unflinching. Gradually, his grip on her wrist loosens.
Belle, there's nothing to fix. The problem is...
Just this once, Ash.
Her voice, though small and lacking any force, stops him. Along with it, every sound, every noise dies around us, a hush descending as if it was waiting for her words.
You don't have to come with me, but if I don't do anything, I am going to regret it.
She lays a hand on top of his, gentle, pleading, almost intimate if one does not consider the circumstances we found ourselves in.
Please.
Ashton will never tell a soul, will never admit it to himself, but it's in that short second that his own resolve breaks. That moment, the hard edge in his eyes softened, letting his hand fall limply to his side. Wordlessly, Isabella steps back and runs off, leaving only a muttered thanks and a small lackluster smile. Only after the last of her footsteps fade away does Ashton move, breaking the silence with one of his sharp exhales before reaching up to the pinch of the bridge of his nose, in a gesture of frustration and surrender.
Did you really have to tell her that?
What do you want to hear from me then? That everything's fine?
No, I want all of you to stop putting these ideas in her head. None of it is helping. Never mind. Don't worry about her. I'll bring her back here.
He's already poised to leave when my own instincts takes over. I reach for him, gripping his elbow with the same underlying grip, the action prompted by voices whispered in the back of my mind. He's already made it clear he's not going to believe me, but he deserves a word of caution. Who knows where this all will take us, how all this will end. He shouldn't be caught off guard, beliefs notwithstanding.
Ash, I know you don't believe in those things she's saying. And you know me. I'm less inclined to believe in those things as you do. But I've seen something. There's something strange going on here. You don't have to buy it. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But please, try to hear her out. It's bad enough that Isabella goes off like this without telling anyone. I'm just worried something might happen to her if she keeps at it. Talk to her, okay?
As if she trusts me enough for that.
Doesn't the fact that she approached you first about this, instead of me, already say a lot?
A different kind of trust, granted implicitly than never spoken, sometimes too big, too fragile to last. He falls silent for a long moment as he turns it over in his mind. In the end, he manages to offer a small nod before he departs, and a promise too, at least, to listen to her, without teasing or the jibs. A favor for me, and the least he could do for her. This is as much as I can do for him as well, until I've understood what's happening myself. Tonight, hopefully, is where All Started will provide the answer I'm looking for. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden, whatever Isabella claimed dwelling in the mansion becomes the least of my concerns. Of all the cabbies in Luxborn, I have a chance upon a superstitious one. Still not as bad as finding out your car starter refused to crank on when it's still working this morning, yes. But it's equally as frustrating when you're forced to walk the rest of the way, all because the driver got spooked. Isabella and him will get along so well. I do get his reason. After all, I've had my fair taste of the bizarre lately. All of which might have brought upon by that letter Isabella found. But you'd think that he'd at least be charitable enough to take me a little closer to the house itself, not at a distance 15 minutes away from by foot. Good thing I'm not wearing anything too formal or constricting. Otherwise, that short walk would have likely put me in a bad mood, long before I have to suffer a room full of strangers tonight. Although, this soon proves to be a problem the second the driver comes into view and I near the entrance. Several underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Ours worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined, lying with the mansion's front yard, men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager of the festivities to start, while some are still implying idling about. Enjoy the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Mrs. Wright, from the confident manner she holds herself among present company. This despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of their own guests, or not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of the utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxborn.
Welcome everyone.
And Mom said that we've been good friends. Can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guest she has, though I admit she does seem familiar now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity and not mine, being dressed up in clothes too fancy for my taste. They flit briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone rises above the buzz of an unraptured audience again.
Please, make yourselves at home.
I wish I could share her enthusiasm, really, but being surrounded by all of this extravagance, for the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. I shouldn't have let Luke's words affect me like that last night. I should have gone ahead and asked Ashton like I planned. If he were here, then I won't have to—
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
The rest of the thought dies on my mind at once. The moment of astonishment overcomes me before confusion sets in a second later. It takes another for my body to catch up. Once it does, when I finally turn to see it for myself, it's this familiar mop of hair that catches my eye first. And there he is, almost in arm's reach if it isn't for the guest standing between us. Ashton Frey, standing in the Ermengarde Mansion's driveway with no air to lackadaisical for someone who absolutely abhors parties for any form. Or has any business here, as far as I know. The picture and form is too bizarre for me, and that mouth speaks out ahead of any coherent tonight.
Ashton?
He swivels his heel with an equally puzzled face. An odd expression flashes momentarily across once he sees me, though he blinks it away before he can figure out what it is exactly.
Becca, what are you doing here?
I was invited.
Really? I had no idea you were friends with the host.
Well, it's my parents, actually. But that's beside the point. What are you doing here? You hate parties.
I still do. I'm just here on behalf of a friend.
That in itself is weird coming from him. It doesn't help that he isn't even making any effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused on at the point of the crowd, his gaze darting between people walking past until a small frown forms on his face.
That's rare. Do you have someone with you then?
Nope, just me. I won't be staying long.
Well, if that's the case, maybe you and I can...
Chief?
Ashton, what's...
Oh, unexpectedly he places a hand on my shoulder, stopping me mid-sentence. He still has a distracted look on him, except this time his eyes are sharper, as if he has found what or who he's been searching for among the throng of partygoers earlier.
Sorry, Becca,
This is so awkward, because Becca's like, maybe we can go together.
There's something I need to check for a bit. I'll talk to you later. Do you have a ride home?
No, I had to take a cab here. My car wouldn't start this afternoon. But what about...
I told you to get that old thing checked before, didn't I? You can head back with me after this. Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. Be careful, okay?
I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already, he has turned his back from me and is walking away without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch it with him, if only to know what he warranted this sudden departure and his odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful! About what
Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ringing in my pocket. Mom's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party, and to send their regards to their old student. But when the call ends, I look up. Ashton's already nowhere in sight. And with a sigh, admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and head inside. With a familiar company, however, coincidentally at this meeting, this is somehow shaping up to be a terrible evening. The party hits full swing an hour later. With the host's opening remarks given, still no sign of her husband, the poor woman, and the guests promptly fed, the band shifts the melody to a livelier tune. Soon, laughter and the rhythmic tapping of shoes fill the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. Seems fun, I admit. Fascinating at certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music their own, almost with no care in the world. If I weren't so indisposed, I'd have to join the crowd for a song or two. There is a lack of invitations anyway, plenty of them, in fact, with some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them, and I can. A single nod is all it takes, and the evening would be far more enjoyable for me. But my pride and my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them, by him, curbs at that, as much as I hate to admit it. By doing so also means outright acknowledgement that douche's claims. That he has to be the one to tell me that it still sends my blood boiling. I would have preferred someone more agreeable, less of an ass. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes a denial difficult. Can't even spare a minute of his attention or a single glance at my whole evening. Hell, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy converting the event to boot, but at least he managed to slip a conversation or two between takes, or a small wave of his hand when he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been fitting in and out of sight this whole time. One moment he's hanging around the small group, and another he's hovering around a stringed band. Just a second ago, he's wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. The next thing I know, he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he doesn't want to be with any of his friends. Is it because his boss is here? What's the big deal about that? It's never bothered him before.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshed wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she had heard any of the profanities I mumbled, or she's taken notice of my discomfiture, she makes no comment of it, merely greeting me with a smile when I turn my attention to her. Mrs. Hana Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely, and a bit too friendly for my liking. But I guess that counts for being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snooty people. Though I suppose nothing has really changed from years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during that one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? I won't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while myself. She probably met a lot of people like little Becky throughout the years, might have already forgotten about me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff it may be.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this, fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenus, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
It makes me a while to realize who she's talking about, until Ashton walks by again, in closer proximity than any of the time he has done so far this evening. Still without a look of acknowledgement our way, though, even if Mrs. Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend, then? Because that would explain those rejections.
Oh, here we go again. This isn't the first time someone has made that assumption. Almost every student I've had did in the past. My coworkers, more often than not, assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever retracted those. He's quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, in the heat of a blush creeps on my cheeks, denial already, despite wanting it to happen so badly myself.
Oh, what? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. Many here would be happy to hear it.
And I haven't been looking at him.
I do my best to sum at a straight face, but before her good cheer, it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
It's more the latter, currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property. I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
It's infectious in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying a child more than I've imagined myself to. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I've mentioned who my parents are, her face quickly lights up, and fondness graces her face, despite the meeting of several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some things you really can't avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember, her asking me, the moment she spotted little Becky in the room, "Do you have a boyfriend?" In retrospect, it's an odd thing to talk about as children when there were loads we could have started with.
Yes, oh, I remember you! You were the cutest little thing with glasses! And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
I believe I still have the clothes she gave me, chosen all that I could impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfires spectacularly. Sure, he's keen, he's a detective for heaven's sake, but feelings more often than not escape him.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew?
Which makes this whole talk all the more embarrassing, and the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows, until she turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married, to a man she most likely probably loves at that, while I'm stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash! That man is that boy!
The
same one.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me, after all these years. I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know?
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
She says that, but for a short moment, a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take that as a chance to change the subject before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even figured out how I should feel about the things Luke told me, now that I'm getting dragged out into a similar discussion.
This is a nice party, Miss Wright.
Though, to be frank, I doubt she'll be so willing to pass this up. The topic has already captured her attention.
Please, Hana is fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love them, you have to fight for it, right?
Yes, but Rebecca's not exactly doing that. I
You're
don't
not
know.
just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
Hypocrisy, that's what it is. How I dare preach about something when exactly what I've been doing, and then I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That, by virtue of us growing up together, he must have returned whatever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at another, because I'm the one who has stayed by his side the longest. When in the first place, Ashton had always been his own person. This is something I cannot force him on him. I can only hold on to these, take care of it, until the time comes and I can confess to him. If he won't? Selfish. I've been too selfish. How laughable that Luke's words still will strike up true up until now.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the past week have been seeing changes in the way I view things. As nice as those things sound, it turns out whatever previously known may not even be true for other people, or for myself. It is sobering and almost funny how things I might have said with much certainty before now has doubts mudding each of them. But then, the time will mull over these later, because when the hushed silence descends in the room, the whole different issue rears. Especially when fucking Luke, strides in with the now quiet ballroom, fashionably laid and oozing with the same pompous mien he always carries around
Good
him.
evening, ladies and gents.
Awkward.
Enjoying the party. I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the Wright Mansion.
Before long, Hana leaves my side to join him, and it doesn't take a genius to piece it all together.
Welcome, one and all, to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are our ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses, as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone.
His attitude, the manner he carries himself around people, his unfamiliarity with the part of the city, of fucking course. I should have known. Although I'm partly at fault here, tabloids and the gossip columns have never been really my thing. I should have also expected that wherever Luke fucking Wright is, some sort of drama will sure follow. He seems the kind of person to revel in it, figures that it'll find him on his own, even when he's not asking for it. It happens amidst around the applause of the roots that people lagging behind the crowd that gathered does not catch on, until the cheers turn to several scandalous gasps.
I am pregnant.
Yeah, we're
with
back to
your
this.
little bastard. You promised me you'll take responsibility. God damn it, Luke. I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and you do this to me.
What do you mean you're pregnant with? Luke, is this true?
Lies and slander, woman! Security! Yo, Hans, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool of herself!
No, you do not do this to me. I was so ready to leave my stupid oaf of a husband. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her. Does she look like she wants a baby?
She's already pregnant, dude.
Does she look like she could take care of a baby?
The commotion doesn't go further despite the drunk woman appealing like she has plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up escorting her out. Apparently, she's the chief's inspector's wife too? As if the whole thing can't get any more fucked up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this brings, I'm more worried about Hana. Maybe Luke too, in part. I've seen the man that hides him behind his self-importance, and it's someone who cares for the person who stands beside him, no matter how questionable that is. After all, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman. And Hana. Well, as refined and well-mannered as she is in front of their guests, I'm sure she'll be all too willing to tolerate this. Her party, her home, her husband, and that woman has just dared to walk over it. Yeah, when I glanced at her, there was only defeat, a weary slump in her shoulders, and a certain depth to her breathing. Like the fight has already been drained out of her long ago. I don't know since when this has been going on. I don't know either of them well to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have that kind of connection with some of them. But the air of a person who wishes for a respite, it's all easier to see it in her, as she quietly watches the commotion carry on around her. In that moment, before I can think it through, I'm pulling her to the side and waving Zachary over to us.
Becca, this is a real oh, hey, Miss Wright.
Hello, Zachary. I told you to call me Hana. Did I not?
Yeah, you did.
Admittedly, the air of familiarity between them catches me off guard. I won't put it past Hana. Her standing in society compels to keep her appearances, the be nice to everyone sort of thing. While Zachary goes to client base, sometimes it calls a rubbering elbows with the rich and famous. Although, from the way it appears, this one seems to go beyond maintaining a facade or work. I wonder how this friendship came to be? I'd ask, but we're starting to attract some attention from curious eyes. Most of them are probably searching for more gossip, something to add fuel to the fire. Thankfully, there's no need to explain to Zachary. He's aware of the situation all too well.
So, this is what you called me for? We gonna get Hana out of here?
That'd be great.
Soon, he's leading the three of us out into the ballroom. Anyone who dared to speak or approach on their way out, I shut down with a sharp glare. In a few steps, we're all out, away from the commotion and the suffocation tension. I don't stay long with him, though. Even if I want to, Ashton is still somewhere in the crowd. I've got to go back for him at least. No matter how much of the idea of the alone sends the unpleasant twinge in my stomach.
Hey, I gotta go back in
Oh,
there.
no.
Completely forgot my bag like an airhead. And I'll see if I can tag Ash on the way out. You'll be fine here, right, Hana?
Not to worry, dearie. I'll just be right here.
We're gonna be alone by ourselves in the mansion because she's gonna go look for Ashton.
Zach will be with you if you need anything.
Besides, it seems Zachary can handle this without another person helping out. In fact, for some reason, I've got the strange impression I might be intruding on something if I elect to remain. Better to entrust this with someone she's comfortable with. And though it might be a little inappropriate considering what has transpired, a smile warms its way to my lips as I leave. Good on them, I suppose. Chatter has exploded through the whole ballroom as I return. Worrisome murmurs, clicking of tongues, and inappropriate gossip filters through the thick tension of the room. Most of them haven't even left the premise, and they're already talking about it. Tomorrow it'll be on the news for sure, in local broadsheets of tabloids in Luxembourg. No wonder Luke's knee-deep in damage control. With the scandalous woman gone, he has turned his attention to the media coverage at the event. Though so far, he isn't faring well in the cleanup department.
Now, people, we all know the drill. I'm sure you're all itching to get a start on those articles.
Good thing Zachary isn't here. Can't imagine a man of his temperament dealing with someone like him.
But if I read one word, see one picture about this come morning, even a single shot of the bloody wine glass the harlot held, you will all lose more than your jobs.
Luke's diatribe goes on for another few minutes, after which he excuses himself out of the area. There's a brief lull, a reluctant pause, before the place comes to stir again, but surely the buzz returns. Dancers, however, once again take the floor, and their guests' excitedly talk begin anew. But I couldn't care less about any of this now. Simply standing in the middle of it already gives me a headache. When the shock has faded, I just feel bone tired. I've accomplished nothing of what I came here for, and apparently Ashton's disappeared sometime during the commotion. I'm not sure what pissed me off more, that he ignored me the whole event, and I might have just left me without saying anything, or knowing he obviously has more other motive than being here. Can he at least trust his own friends for that?
He didn't have to hide it from me.
It's the last straw. No longer in the mood, I grab my bag and head out, more than ready to end the disastrous night as early as possible. As it turns out, the night isn't done with me yet, because no sooner has the porter closed the door behind me, I find myself standing alone in the foyer with one Luke Wright. No sign of Hana or Zach. Just him and the agitated clicks of his shoe makes while he treads around the empty room. Away from the media's prying eyes and their guests' judging stares, it's easy to glean how much of the scandal has him shaken. Not to the point where he utterly lost composure, he appears to have mastered enough not to. But an ample opening is there, a nervous edge to show on the lines of his shoulder.
What do you know?
The man is not tough as he makes himself out to be. Sure, I've seen this before, briefly in that 1 second in the hallway at school. It's a strange matter, however, to witness this out in the open, behind closed doors. This is the real Luke Wright. Though maybe it's because he hasn't noticed my presence yet, busy as he always with his thinking. If he's aware, I doubt he'll be acting like this. His pride is one thing that he'll always wear with him. Even now, when I place a gentle hand on his shoulder, he whirls around to face me. There's a second long moment of anger flashing across his features before it dissolves into confusion. He's exited away quickly as he can, but it does nothing to change the impression I've built on the man in my head.
Daisy, must you be everywhere?
We've only met 3 times, Luke. Quit the dramatics. Besides, shouldn't you be aware of who gets invited to your party?
If I was, there wouldn't be any of that scene tonight. That munter wouldn't even get an inch within this property. I'd ban her off Luxport if I could.
He probably pawns everything off of their servants and Hana. Pompous, elitist douche.
Did you just come out here to lecture me about it? Because, Daisy, I can already feel one coming tomorrow. I don't need to hear one from you tonight.
You are a very unpleasant man.
So I've been told. Will that be all? If so, I suggest you go back and join every bloody goss in that room.
Not everything. And as unpleasant and frustrating talking with this man is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt at least. The questions and criticism aren't lacking, of course. But right in this instant, there is only one thing that comes to mind. Is it true? You should be with your wife. I don't want to be like, is it true? Because I feel like we're intruding. You know, even though Luke is a dick, I still don't want to be that one person who's like, oh, is it true? Did you actually impregnate another woman? I'll just be like, you should go be with your wife because, again, this is their problem. They should fix it themselves.
You know, brooding over here isn't going to fix this mess.
Again with the lecture.
Will you stop calling it that?
Very well, what should we call this then? A heart-to-heart? Please don't. I might puke. And just so you know, I don't want to talk about feelings. Ever.
This isn't one, all right? It's just a friendly concern. Bloody hell, can't you just take it for what it is?
He pauses at that. Suddenly, he doesn't know what to do with his hands, and at the end, he simply stuffs them back into his pockets and sulks. There probably aren't many people who tell him that. He's a difficult man to get along with, after all. I obviously won't give him a second of my time if I didn't see a different side to him. Dealing with him requires more than patience. When the awkwardness pauses, mostly coming from him, he merely glances away. But the tightness in his shoulders is erased when he speaks again. Despite his rather rude choice of words, none of it has venom in it.
Friendly concern, right. While we're at it, I should mention that Hana used to call that viper friend. Now I think she might want to strangle the munter if she sees her again. After she's done with me, of course.
I doubt she's going to do anything like that.
What do you even know about this?
Oh, I know enough. You may look like a sleazy douche, and you still are, by the way.
It's almost comical how fast his face shifts from mild disdain to offended, but I don't let it distract me. These things need to be said, and he needs to hear them, even though they're coming from some meddling stranger.
But you have your few good moments. I might even say that you're a decent person, if I'm in the mood. Now go. If you really love her, you've got to try and fix this yourself.
Maybe tomorrow.
Luke.
Daisy, did you see her earlier? Was that the face of a wife who wants to have a chat with her cheating husband?
Well, at least you admitted you did something wrong. Good for you. How about a star? Would you like a star to go with that good deed?
Don't get used to it. Do you realize how awkward this is?
Oh, I do.
Before I even thought about what to say, I know there can only be 2 ways that this can go. All things considered, it isn't as bad as I assumed. However, there are still some things my brand of encouragement can't fix. His marital problems, first and foremost, his attitude follows right after. Concerns aside, I can't help with those. Those are things he can only fix, and it's definitely not by standing around here bantering.
Don't worry, I was just about to leave. Feel free to continue with your brooding once I'm gone. I'm not going to tell anyone. Cross my heart.
You think this is funny, Daisy?
Laughter is the only response I give him. With a side of a waving hand, I end it right there and walk away. Although, I can't resist the urge to glance back when I leave, if only I had one last look at the man he really is. But the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Oh god, what? Oh no! Looming, hovering over his shoulder, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Like the first time I've stepped inside this place in search of Isabella. He was there too, wasn't he? The man, long with his wife and another person, Miss McCullough? And that shadow, no, a woman now. Her, no longer a dark blur. Terror rushes through every vein of my body, a crippling sensation gripping every part of me while she stares at me with a glare filled with nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring at the eyes of a woman I would knowingly rob of something precious. I try to say something, a warning, but before I can gather my wits and voice it out, someone shuts the door behind me, as if to keep outsiders away from the secrets this mansion possesses. Okay, we're gonna end it right there. So see, we filled up the bar with Luke. We're practically best friends now. We went up with Isabella after we confessed we saw the ghost girl, but it went down with Ashton because we sided with Isabella. Now we saw the girl hovering over Luke. And her shape seems to be, to me, I know people are saying it's the daughter or Lady Ermengarde of the mansion, but I can't help but think it's two people. I don't know why. For me, it seems like it's two people, not one person. That's the way I see it. So that's a little bit concerning to me, and I don't know exactly, like, why she's so attracted to Luke. Is it because it reminds her of her fiancé? Or what? I don't know. Anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you think, but if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you know when I upload the next episode of The Letter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye! What is What is happening in this game? He steps forward and he found his tongue wandering inside her mouth, exploring slowly as she... I'm sorry, let me do that again. He found his tongue wandering in her